Hey everybody, Crow back again, and I recently finished playing all the games in this. This is the Intellivision Collection 2 for the Evercade, and as with every other Evercade release, you're getting the game in a clamshell case, the cartridge, full color manual, and as a bonus in this collection, we're getting 3 reference cards, 1 for Cloudy Mountain and 2 for Tower of Doom. There are a total of 12 games included in this collection, and I'm going to talk about each of these games. I'm going to go in order of release from the earliest release to the most recent release. I'll talk about what I kind of thought about the game. And then after that, I'm going to rank all the games. And then after that, I'm going to rank all the games against all the other games I've previously ranked on the Evercade. And then I'm going to rank the collection itself against all the other collections. So let's get started with our earliest game. The earliest game in this collection is Auto Racing from 1980, a simple top-down racing game with 5 cars to choose from and 5 tracks, and even though the only visual difference between the cars is the color, they each have their own behaviors. You can race against another player or race yourself against the clock. There are no CPU drivers in this game, so with single-player mode like I played, it's just racing against the clock. And you know what? I'm actually fine with that. This is one of those games that took a bit of time for me to come to grips with the controls, because it's quite different than simply pressing right to turn right and left to turn left. The D-pad behaves like an actual steering wheel, so if you press up and right, it's like slightly turning to the right. Pressing right is like a medium right, and pressing down and right is like a hard right. This means that if you go from pressing right to immediately pressing left, the game acts like you just spun the steering wheel super hard, and you'll more than likely spin out. I should note that the cars automatically accelerate and you only have one button for the brakes, and there's no way to reverse your car. So if you spin out and you're facing right in front of a building or a tree, well, you've got no choice but to crash. It took me a while to break the habit of pressing left and then immediately right and vice versa, and before I did, I was kind of getting frustrated with the game. But then after about an hour of playing, everything clicked and I actually really liked this one. Well, somebody really wanted to make a Star Wars game but couldn't get the rights. This is Star Strike from 1981, and this game is like the Death Star trench run from Star Wars. The only 2 differences is that there are 5 targets that need to be bombed, and if you fail, the Earth is destroyed. You'll have 2 ships on your tail trying to gun you down, but eventually they'll overtake you and you'll be able to shoot them. It's easy to tell when they're no longer behind you because they'll change colors. But whenever you hear the alarm, that means that one of the targets will be approaching and you'll need to prepare to bomb it. If the Earth is in firing range and you miss one of the targets, well, you lose and say goodbye to Earth. I thought this game was pretty cool, but the longer I played, the more frustrated I got at this game. I could never get the hang of the timing of the bomb. On standard difficulty, between the time of the alarm and the appearance of the target and the timing of when you release the bomb, it's all really short. Unless you're super close to the ground, you'll actually have to release the bomb before the target appears on screen. And the thing that really sucks is if you get the first 4 targets but then miss the 5th one, you'll have to cycle through all the targets again just for another attempt at the 5th one. It all seems rather ridiculous to me, and I could never get the hang of hitting the targets on a consistent basis. Here we have Reversi from 1982. Reversi is just the non-trademark name of the game Othello, and it seems like every early console had a version of Reversi/Othello, and well, this is Intellivision's version. I'm not really going to go into too much detail on how to play this game, but basically you and your opponent alternate putting pieces on the board, and if you place a piece that surrounds your opponent's, then all of the opponent's pieces in between your 2 pieces become your pieces. The game ends when neither player can place a piece on the board, and the winner is the player with the most pieces on the board. Your options for this version are a small, medium, or large size board. You can play against a computer or another player, and if playing against a computer, you can select one of 3 difficulty levels. I'm rather indifferent to this game in general, maybe because I'm not particularly good at it, but at least I can beat the computer in this version of the game. Well, at least if I play on easy. Released in 1982, originally going under the name Advanced Dungeons & Dragons cartridge, and yes, cartridge was actually officially part of the game's name for licensing reasons, the label Cloudy Mountain was added when future D&D games were released for the Intellivision, and then the game was just known as Cloudy Mountain, so the game could be released on other platforms without licensing the Dungeons & Dragons name. This is one of those games I've dabbled with in the past, but I never really fully understood how to play it. But now, with this Evercade version, everything became clear to me thanks to the 4 pages dedicated to the game in the Evercade manual and the handy double-sided reference card that was also included. But once you understand the game, you'll realize how simple it actually is and you won't really need those reference materials. The game starts out on an overworld map where you must traverse the screen and make it to the Cloudy Mountain. But you'll have other mountains, gates, rivers, and forests that must be traversed in order to make it. Each mountain varies in difficulty, and the items contained in each mountain are designated by its color. Entering a mountain brings you to maze-like caverns that must be explored to find additional arrows required for shooting creatures, a raft for crossing rivers, keys for going through gates, and an axe for going through forests. You'll also need to find a ladder to leave the mountain and to make it back to the overworld map. Your party consists of 3 people, all of whom are exactly the same, and this just translates you to having 3 lives. This game is really fun. It has 4 difficulty levels, and I believe that everything is randomized with every playthrough, so I can see returning to this game and having a different adventure each time. Sharp Shot, released in 1982, is a title featuring 4 simple shooting games for 1 or 2 players. And when I say simple, I mean simple. Each of the 4 games is only controlled with 1 button and revolves around hitting as many targets as you can in 60 seconds. The 4 games are Football Passing, where you complete as many passes as you can, Space Gunner, where you shoot spacecraft as they fly through your crosshairs, Submarine, where you torpedo as many ships as you can, and Maze Shoot, where you fire arrows at monsters. I think it's also the only game that you could lose points if a monster steals your treasure and makes it back to the pyramid. That's as complicated as the scoring goes for any of these games. If you're wondering why such a simplistic game was made for the Intellivision, the reason is that these games were specifically created for a television game show called TV POW.
Every afternoon we put 2 buckaroos on the phone together and let them battle it out. Don't miss the excitement. Speed Racer, the Little Rascals, and 2-Player POW, weekday afternoons at 4 here on Channel 31.
People would call in and fire by saying POW over the phone.
Ow! Ooh, just almost. Try it again. Got 21 seconds left. Ow! Oh, boy, you're missing everybody. Come on.
So they took those 4 games and bundled them into 1 cartridge and released it as an Intellivision title while advertising it as a game for children. While I can see some entertainment value from this, especially if you go for the 200-point challenge where you try to score 200 points across all 4 games, I wonder why the games weren't tweaked a little bit for the Intellivision to give the player just a little bit more control. Next up, Vectron from 1983. I'd seen this game before, but I never played it until now. At a glance, this game seems confusing as hell, but the concept is actually pretty straightforward. You control 2 elements in this game. The V-gun at the top of the screen that can fire at 7 different angles, determined by the direction pressed on the D-pad, and the energy block below that can be moved left or right with 2 buttons. Basically, you move the energy block into an empty area and then shoot it with the V-gun, and that'll cause the block to fill with energy. When all the areas are filled, the energy base is completed and you can move on to the next level. But it's not that easy, as there's these things flying all over the screen that will destroy sections of the base you've already built, and also stop your shots from reaching the energy block. This can get kind of annoying because if the energy block moves onto a partially destroyed section of the base, you can't really move it again unless you hit it with the V-gun or hit the button to go into freestyle mode where you can move the block anywhere you want. The game is over when you run out of energy, which you are constantly losing, by the way, and in the end I found the gameplay to be rather ridiculous and frustrating. I mean, you have to move the cursor to an area you want to build and then aim the gun to shoot it. And with all the things flying around, you'll annoyingly get your shots blocked again and again and again and again. and while you're trying to create one section, those things are destroying the rest of your base. I found this game so frustrating that I had to quit playing it after about 20 minutes. Alright, here's a game I was really looking forward to playing. This is Motocross from 1983, and the reason I was really interested in playing this one is because it's the predecessor to one of my favorite Commodore 64 games, Racing Destruction Set. And in a way, this game is a very simplified version of that game. It's really just driving dirt bikes around a track with an isometric perspective. You can play yourself against the clock, against the second player, or against a computer opponent. The two-player element is handled kind of strangely though. If one player falls too far behind, the player in the lead is frozen in place for a little bit while the other player catches up. This will add to that player's time in the end, but it's kind of annoying for the player in the lead because it could screw up your timing, especially if you're in the middle of a turn. There are only 3 tracks, but there's also a rather simple track editor that'll let you create a 4th track, and with the Evercade you'll actually be able to save it using save states. For each track you can choose the number of laps and which direction you want to drive the track, but the standard tracks all seem kind of large, so anything over 2 laps seems to take a really long time to complete. The only other complaint I've got about this one is how your biker wipes out instantly whenever you go just a little bit off the track. I mean, I can see wiping out by hitting objects or landing on a hill in a weird position, but for touching the grass? And also, I didn't really realize it until after I played some other games in this collection, but the frame rate on this game is a little bit more stuttery when you compare it to other games in this collection. In the end though, this really isn't that bad of a game at all. This is Hover Force from 1986, and this game was originally meant to be a title played in 3D, but that feature was removed before this game was actually released. And looking at this footage, you can see how this game would have taken advantage of the 3D element, as you're in a helicopter looking down at a city with helicopters flying around at different heights. The goal of each mission in this game is to take out all of the terrorist helicopters and put out all of the fires throughout the city that they are creating. You'll have a laser for shooting down the terrorists, and a water gun for putting out the fires. It's an interesting concept as your goal is to take out the terrorists as quickly as possible before they can cause too much damage. At the end of each mission, you're graded on a scale from 1 to 100. Well, that's according to the manual, but I swear the game that I played had to be glitched somehow, because for mission 1, I got a 55, which is understandable for the first time playing, and for mission 2, I got a 60. I mean, hey, not bad, I must be improving. For mission 3, I got a 0. What, 0? I thought that wasn't supposed to be possible. Did I do that badly? Mission 4, 0 again. What? Mission 5, 0 again. No way. Mission 6, 0 yet again. Come on, shouldn't I be getting more than a 0 if the mission was successful? And then in mission 7, the game glitched out and crashed completely. Man alive. That game was nearly an hour and a half in. It probably lasted that long because I was playing on the easiest difficulty, just so I could get used to the game. But anyway, during my time playing, I went from thinking the game was completely awesome to being kind of annoyed by some of the control issues. The biggest one stems from the fact that you can't use the D-pad and press the buttons for the air brakes or to change to the radar screen or back. I often found myself frantically pressing these buttons trying to get them to work, only to realize, oh, I'm pushing the D-pad to move the helicopter. It's kind of annoying that you have to remember to stop pressing the D-pad to use these buttons. I also didn't like how the radar worked. It would sweep back and forth across the map, and the enemy choppers and fires would just blip as they were swept over. The problem I had was that the enemy choppers would blip on the screen, and I would make sure I was in the right spot as the blip would happen, and then I'd switch screens, and the chopper was nowhere to be found. I switch back to the radar, only to find that they've already moved pretty far away. I know you're supposed to be able to predict the patterns these choppers are using, but I don't think the radar blips occur fast enough for you to figure out the pattern very easily. I kind of wish the targets just stayed on the radar screen because I was getting pretty tired of constantly missing the locations of the choppers I was hunting down. Aside from those annoyances though, I still had a good time with the game, and for now I'll give the game the benefit of the doubt that the glitchy game I had was just a one-time thing, because the second game I played was on the hardest difficulty, and I wasn't even trying and I scored an 88. And this is even after I purposely ran out of fuel just to see what would happen. From 1987, we get Tower of Doom, the game that's featured on the cover of this collection, and also probably the most complicated. There are 6 pages in the Evercade's manual dedicated to this game, as well as 2 double-sided reference cards that were also included. But you know what? Like Cloudy Mountain, after a few games, it won't feel all that complex, and you won't need any of that. The premise of this game is pretty simple. You start at the top of a tower, and you need to work your way down to the bottom and escape while dealing with the creatures and traps encountered throughout. The thing I find kind of funny is that neither the game nor the manual explain how you wound up at the top of this tower in the first place. Ah well, I guess it's just not that important. As you run around each level, you'll automatically be mapping out the layout and finding food, weapons, and other items, but your character can only hold so much, and the window in the lower left corner shows the 8 items that you're carrying, as well as the item you're holding. If you encounter a creature, the main window will switch from an overhead view of the room to the side view of your character and the creature. If you want to fight, you have to make sure you're holding a melee weapon in order to attack, but you can also drop an item if you want to bribe the creature to go away. Either action will increase experience in the relevant stats. You know, I could go on and on and on about every little detail about this game, but I'll keep it to just those basics. The game ends when you either escape the tower or die, but you know something? Every time you start a new game, there's just an incredible amount of options to choose from. 14 different towers ranging from incredibly easy small towers that are the same every time you play, to extremely tall towers containing high-level creatures with floor layouts and items that are randomized every time you play. And if that isn't enough, you'll then get to choose from 10 different characters, all with different stats and starting with different items, ranging from characters with high stats and starting with a lot of equipment and food, down to weak characters that don't even start the game with a weapon. The game can literally be a brand new, unknown adventure every time you play it. Now, I wouldn't say the game is perfect, because I found the whole managing the items in your bag aspect to be a bit clumsy, and it can be a bit annoying if you get attacked while you're managing the items in your bag, because then you've got to hurry up and find a weapon, and then you've got to put it in your hand and exit the bag before you can fight. And even if you want to flee, you still have to exit the bag. Now, I can understand maybe, yeah, if you were attacked while searching through a bag, you would certainly be caught off guard, but I don't understand why you would need to access the bag to open doors or to go downstairs. Why couldn't there be a dedicated button for that? Instead, you've got to go near the door or stairs so the icon appears in your bag, and then access the bag and move the cursor over to the door or the down icon to perform that action. Opening doors or going down to the next level takes way longer than it should, and during that time you're leaving yourself open to attack. In the end though, that's really the only negative thing I have to say about this game. Mountain Madness Super Pro Skiing is our next game, and it was released in 1988. This is one of those downward skiing games that appeared on just about every platform back in the day, and this one in fact is just an upgraded version of an earlier Intellivision game, US Ski Team Skiing from 1980. To be honest, I actually have a fondness for this type of skiing game, regardless of what platform it's on, and like most of these games, the controls are pretty straightforward. You steer by pressing left and right, there's a button to jump, and then another button to make sharper turns. When it comes to game options, there's quite a few to choose from. 1 to 6 people can play, though multiple players will just alternate turns. There are 3 gate options, from wide gates to narrow gates to no gates, and then there are a whopping 32 pre-built courses to choose from, and not only that, but you can even build your own course if you want to. And it doesn't even end there, because you can also choose the helicopter course, which just creates a random course for you that's different every time you choose it. And after all of that, each player gets to select from 1 of 15 slope angles, which is essentially like choosing how fast you want your skier to go. You don't really want to go too slow, but then you don't want to go too fast either, since you lose time by hitting obstacles and missing gates. Well, that's only if you're playing with the gates on. If you like this type of game, then I don't think there's anything to really complain about here. This game gave me exactly what I expected with an overload of options to boot. '88 also gave us Super Pro Decathlon, a title that was timed for release for the 1988 Summer Olympics. There are, of course, 10 events that 1 to 4 players can compete in, although all players will need to alternate turns. The events are the 100-meter dash, the long jump, the shot put, the high jump, the triple jump, hurdles, discus, pole vault, javelin, and the 400-meter dash. The controls are pretty much the same for every event, wiggling or spinning the D-pad to run, and an action button to throw or jump, whatever action the event calls for. But let's talk about what it takes to run in this game, because the manual is very clear that you can alternate tapping left and right or by spinning the D-pad, or it would be the disc on the original Intellivision controller. Now, I haven't tried this on the handheld as I've only played this on the Evercade VS, but trying this with the standard Evercade controller or an arcade stick doesn't seem to work very well, though it does work slightly better with an arcade stick. The only way I was able to get a decent running speed was by holding the arcade stick upside down, and that's because I'm right-handed, and wiggling the joystick quickly between the down left position and the up right position. Only then could I beat the times required on even the amateur level. And I could only do it with the arcade stick. I couldn't do it with the gamepad at all. And this is something that's required for every event. Maybe this is something that's easier to do on the original Intellivision controller, but I found it impossible to do on a gamepad, and only possible, though also exhausting to do, on an arcade stick, especially for the 400-meter dash. That was almost like torture. The game itself seems decent enough, but I don't think I'll be coming back to this one because I might break something, either my arm or the controller. Alright, it's 1989 and we're getting one of the last releases from INTV Corporation, Stadium Mud Buggies. This game came so late to the Intellivision that the same game was also in development for the NES, though it was released under the title Monster Truck Rally on that platform. Now, if this game has more than a passing resemblance to Motocross, that's no mistake because Stadium Mud Buggies is more kind of like a massively upgraded version of Motocross, only with monster trucks instead. There are 8 events, although sometimes marketing for this game will claim 9 events, but the 9th event is just doing all 8 events consecutively. You could choose to play these events yourself, or against another player, or against the computer, or if you're lazy, you could just watch the computer play by itself or take control of both trucks. Controlling the truck was a bit awkward at first, but I eventually got the hang of it. You steer by pointing in the direction you want to go, which is not how I would have chosen to play, but I got used to it. You also have to take care of shifting gears, which is handled by tapping the accelerate button to shift up and tapping the brake button to shift down. Kind of weird, especially because the game doesn't tell you what gear you're in and also automatically shifts you down to the first gear if you crash. But you know what? I kind of got used to it after a while. And you have to get used to it because there's no option for automatic transmission here. As for the 8 events, I feel they're hit and miss. First up, the hill climb. This one is fine and focuses on shifting appropriately to get up steep inclines. The drag race. Exactly what it sounds like, driving on a straight path with a focus on shifting up to the top speed as quickly as possible. It's fine, although kind of awkward if you're playing single player. Bog, a course with a focus on water and mud pits. Again, no problem with this one. Tug-o-war. The trucks are tethered together and drive in opposite directions, and I think this is the worst event. Firstly, if you're playing single player, you're not tethered to anything, so you just instantly win. But playing against another vehicle, I've never seen anybody win. The distance you have to drag the other truck is just way too far, and every time you hit a water or mud puddle, the other truck instantly gains the advantage, but you really can't control your truck that well either to avoid that stuff. Each round always ended in a tie when the tether broke, making it a complete waste of time every time I played this event. The 5th event is the Car Crush. It's like any other regular course except there's cars littering the track and you score extra points for crushing them. This is interesting because it's possible to not have the fastest time, but still win the event if you've crushed more cars. The next event is Donuts, a super short circle track which isn't bad, although at this time I should bring up that if you play the Monster Rally, which is when you play all the events, the number of laps you select applies to all events, so if you pick like 2 laps to keep some of the longer courses from taking too much time, this donut track is like over in no time flat. Event 7 is Drawbridge, and this one I just find annoying. Throughout this course, sections of the track will raise and lower, creating ramps or just a flat surface. The issue is that some of the ramps will be facing the opposite direction, creating a wall for you, forcing you to wait till the track lowers again. It's very, very annoying because it allows your opponent to either catch up to you or get further ahead of you, or both players could just be sitting there waiting for the ramp to lower. I really don't like this one at all. The final event is the Combo Course, and it contains elements from many of the previous events, such as the steep hills, the waters and mud puddles, cars to crush, and unfortunately the drawbridges as well, though there's only a few of them this time. You know what though? In the end, I do wind up liking this one as long as I stay away from the tug-of-war and drawbridge events. And finally, I also want to mention how the game handles 2 players if one player gets too far ahead of the other. If you're a single racer racing against the computer, it's not an issue because it'll focus on you and let the computer drive off screen. However, for 2 human players, it just pushes the player that's behind further up the screen, tacking on a penalty time at the end. There's 2 reasons this is kind of weird. Firstly, it increases the chance of the 2 trucks colliding with each other, and secondly, it allows both trucks to finish the race even if nobody was driving the other truck. It just tacks on a ton of penalty points since the game literally pushed the truck nobody was driving all the way around the course. Alright, here we are. We're going to rank these games. I'm going to start with the game I like the least and work our way up. And the game I actually like the least is this one, Vectron. This game really kind of annoyed me. It just felt like what I was doing was futile. It just, I don't know, it just didn't make much sense to me to play it the way it was designed. I just didn't like the game, flat out. And I'm going to rank that a D. Next, in spot number 11, I'm going to go with Star Strike. And I did like this, I'm going to put this above Vectron, but, you know, it's just the fact that I can't really seem to get the timing of dropping those bombs, and the more I tried, the more frustrating I got. So, you know, I just got to flat out say I don't like the game, but I'm going to rank it a D. In our spot number 10, I'm going to go with Super Pro Decathlon. I'm going to put this on level C. The running, you know, just seems too brutal. I can't even see playing this game on the handheld. And there's only one controller I have that I can actually get the people to run up the speeds to actually beat the records they need to beat. It's just a killer. I feel like I'm going to kill my controllers playing this game. And in spot number 9, I'm going with Reversi. I mean, it's just kind of a dull ho-hum game to me. It seems like every platform has this game, whether it be called Reversi or Othello. To me, it's nothing to get excited about. In spot number 8, I'm going to go with Sharp Shot. And again, I'm going to rank this a C. We're going to put this above Reversi. Again, it's just too basic for its own good. And I mean, yeah, you could go in and try and get the highest score possible. And to be honest, there's nothing I really don't like about the game, but there's really nothing to like about the game either. And then spot number 7, we're looking at Motocross. And again, I'm going to rank this a C. The game is just kind of stuttery, choppy. It's kind of slow. I don't like the way it handles when one player gets too far behind. And the fact if you go a little bit off course, you crash. Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's okay, but it's not bad either. In spot 6, Stadium Mud Buggies. I'm going to put this on rank B. Yes, it's a step above Motocross. It is enjoyable to a point. However, there are some events in here that I totally do not want to play again. I'm looking at the tug of war and I'm looking at the drawbridge race. It's just, I don't want to play those again. And then moving up in spot number 5, I'm going to go with auto racing. And we're going to jump this up to A. And I'm actually quite surprised I'm putting this on A because I did play this game before the Evercade version, but I never came to grips with steering. And now that I have come to grips with steering, I actually quite like this game. I just kind of wish there were more tracks. To me, 5 tracks doesn't seem like a whole lot. In spot number 4, I'm going to go with Hover Force. We're also going to rank this on an A level. This is a top-notch game. It really is. It's just that when you start to get in the higher levels, it can be frustrating to hunt down the choppers that you're trying to destroy. In spot number 3, I'm going to go with Mountain Madness Super Pro Skiing. I'm going to put this all the way on the S level. I like skiing games like this, and there's just a whole lot of options for this game. Whether or not you got wide gates, narrow gates, or no gates, and then 32 pre-built courses, which is a ton. And then on top of that, you can build your own course, and on top of that, you could play randomized courses where every section is just randomized. So there's a lot going on here. So it may be one of the best, one of those, going down skiing games that I've ever played. So I've got to put this on the S level. Let's move on to our number 2 spot. So basically it comes down to Cloudy Mountain and Tower of Doom. And which one did I like better? Well, I like Tower of Doom better, so Cloudy Mountain is going to be in our number 2 spot. And I've put this all the way on the double S level. Once I learned how to play the game, it's just fantastic. And every time you play the game, it's going to be different. You're never going to have the same game more than once. You've got, I think, a few difficulty levels to choose from, so I like it a lot. But I like Tower of Doom even more. And we're also going to put this on the double S. I almost wanted to put Tower of Doom on the triple S level, but I couldn't say the game was absolutely perfect the way it was because I did feel like going into the bag and rummaging around was a little clunky, but also having to go into the bag to open a door or go downstairs seemed a little bit ridiculous as well. So I'm going to have to knock it down a rank just for that. But other than that, there's just so many options to playing this game. And like Cloudy Mountain, every time you play the game, it's going to be different no matter what options you choose, unless you choose, I think, like the first 2 towers because, or first 2 levels, because I think things aren't randomized in those. But after that, everything is. So yeah, every time you play different, you get a different adventure every time, and that's just fantastic. All right, here we have our ranking list of all the Evercade games that I've ranked so far. And we're going to start by ranking Vectron, and it was on level D. So let's see where I'm going to put this. All right, I think I found a spot for it. I think I'm going to put this just a hair above Treasure and under Super Goal 2. Yeah, I think that might be where I'm going to put it. Well, it is where I'm going to put it. And next up, also on level D, Star Strike, but I do have to put this above Vectron. So where will we place this? All right, I'm going to put this pretty high up. I think I'm going to put this almost near the top, but just under Weapon Lord. Star Strike, I don't think is that bad of a game, but it's frustrating to the point to where I don't like it. Maybe if I played it even more, I'd like it more. So I'm willing to give this game more of a chance than any of the other games below it. So next, Super Pro Decathlon. We put this on level C. Where should I put it? Because really the only reason it's on C is because running is utterly ridiculous in this game. Okay, yeah, I think I found a good spot for it right here above Remnant, but under Libble Rabble. Next up is Reversi, and I put Reversi on C rank as well. It's just a ho-hum game. Okay, yeah, I think we're gonna put this just above Metal Marines and just under Adventure. Next up, Sharp Shot. Again, just kind of not a bad game, just kind of bland. Let's put it just above Alien Brigade. I think that's where I'm gonna place this, just above Alien Brigade and right under Dream World Pogie. Next up, we got Motocross, again on level C. Can't say I like the game, can't say I don't like the game. I almost do like the game, so think this is going to go higher. Yeah, you know what? I got to put it under the Snowboard Championship from the Galco Arcade Collection and above Final Zone, the Genesis Final Zone from the Renovation Collection. Next up, Stadium Mud Buggies, and I put this on level B. You know what? I've got to put this just a hair above Radar Lock and under Chain Reaction. I think that's where that's going to settle. But Auto Racing, I think some people thinking I'm ranking this one too high by putting it on an A, but I really did like this one. Okay, you know what? I think I found a spot just above Centipede for the 7800 and just under Burnin' Rubber for the NES or Famicom, because I definitely can't go any higher than that because Thin Ice. Yeah, I definitely got to put Thin Ice above Auto Racing. Next up, Hover Force. Again, fantastic game. I almost wanted to rank it higher than an A. I think I may have found the spot. I'm going to put it just under a Steinix. I think I like a Steinix a bit better than Hover Force, but I definitely got to put it above the arcade version of Warlords. Next up, we got Mountain Madness Super Pro Skiing that I put on rank S. I really did like this one, so let's find a spot for this one. I'm going to put this just under Valis 3 and over Mysterious Stones with Dr. What's-His-Face. Next up, Cloudy Mountain. This was a double S game. I'm gonna place this pretty high up, just over Sensible Soccer and just under Gyrus. And then that means our last game here, Tower of Doom, also has to be on rank double S. This game is just utterly fantastic. So, yeah, you know what? I gotta put this as the highest game on double S because I just barely couldn't put it on rank triple S. So I think that's where we're gonna put Tower of Doom. And that's all our rankings of all the games, but we still have our collection ranking to go to. All right, so finally, we've got to rank the collection as a whole. What am I to go with my gut feeling? Do I think this was better than Intellivision Collection 1? I absolutely do think it was better. The best game on that was Thunder Castle, and I put 2 games above Thunder Castle. It's definitely good. Do I put it on level S? Do I like it more than the Lynx collections? Yes, I think I do. Do I want to put this on double S? I think so. I don't know if I could. I don't think I could put it on triple S, but I think this is definitely going on double S. I don't think I could put it above Morph Cat games, or can I? I definitely can put it above Technos Collection 1. So the question is, do I rank this higher than Morph Cat Games Collection 1? You know what? I think I will put it higher. This does have, 3 to 5 games, depending on how you look at it. But honestly, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in Intellivision Collection 1 alone that I've ranked A or higher. So I think there's just more to play here than there is for Morph Cat games. And then you've got Cloudy Mountain and Tower of Doom, which are just infinitely replayable. Even if you want to look at it a certain way, Mountain Madness with your helicopter level where you can just play a randomized course every single time. Again, there's just a lot more replayability than in Morph Cat games, I believe. So that's where we're going to place Intellivision Collection 2 at the top of the double S rank. It looks like the next collection I've got to be playing is this one, Jalico Arcade 1. So I need to get started on these games. See you then. Bye.